This is not turning out how I anticipated. Iman Gadzhi, the 23-year-old multi-millionaire, self-proclaimed king of SMMAs and monk mode, has been on an absolute tear on YouTube. But I think the tide might be changing. He recently posted a video about why you should not start a business and instead you should become a high-ticket closer. I recently hired my first closer for my business and something immediately rubbed me the wrong way about Iman's video, and apparently I wasn't the only one. Iman used 5 points to try and convince the viewer that being a sales rep was literally the best job anyone could have, and each point contained a crucial logical fallacy. So, after quickly jotting down some notes and grabbing a few screenshots, I then came back a few hours later to rewatch the video, and it was gone. Iman has said some controversial stuff in the past, but something about this particular video caused a backfire that he must have deemed was unacceptable. And whether it was the ridiculously high close rates in his examples or the clear advertisement of his new online course, something went wrong here. And so as I break down each of the fallacies, just know that the goal of this video isn't just to crap on Iman. I just want to offer a different and hopefully more realistic picture of what becoming a sales rep or an entrepreneur in general might look like. A lot of the criticism I saw about that video was that it very clearly points people into a career that he's selling a brand new course on. But that's not actually where I see the problem. There's nothing wrong with selling online courses. And although I can't go back and fact check because the video has been deleted, I believe Iman said that there's a 14-day money-back guarantee on his course, so people should be able to try it, and if they don't like it, get a refund, no big deal. I have no criticism for Iman on that front. My first critique, though, comes with the assertion that being a sales rep is simple. I grabbed this screenshot from the start of the video where Iman says that being an entrepreneur is so complex and that so many people fail because they sign a 2-year lease for an office building and hire an assistant before they ever have a product or make a sale. And this is what we call a straw man fallacy, where someone misrepresents or exaggerates the opposing side of the argument so that it's easier to attack. And in my experience, most entrepreneurs actually start very lean, spending very little money and doing all of the work themselves until they can make a little bit of capital and hire out small pieces of their operations. Most entrepreneurs fail because they can't reach scale and grow, not because they have a lot of money up front that they can waste on physical locations that they won't use and staff who don't have anything to do yet. But the video starts off trying to make entrepreneurship look bad, even though that's how Iman made his money, because making it look bad in comparison makes being a sales rep look good. And I think a better option is just to be realistic about the pros and cons of each. And to remember that it doesn't have to be either or. Yes, being a sales rep is a job, but you can use that job to, 1, avoid the complexities of starting a business yourself if you don't want to go down the entrepreneurship path, or 2, if you do want to go down the entrepreneurship path, give yourself the opportunity to learn more about business, and one of the key components is sales, and earn money while you do it. That way you're preparing for that entrepreneurial journey. It's not necessary to paint entrepreneurship in a bad light to make being a sales rep look good. Different strokes for different folks, and there's plenty of people who have found success doing both. In the next 2 points, we see the cherry picking fallacy and a hasty generalization. Cherry picking is when someone selectively focuses only on the information that supports their argument while kind of downplaying any evidence to the contrary. And a hasty generalization is when you draw a conclusion based on limited or insufficient evidence without considering the other relevant factors. So they are similar. This happens when Iman talks about the amount of money you can make as a closer, as well as how simple it could be. First, we get this graphic, and this is what I saw most heavily criticized about this video. 10 calls per day with a 70% close rate, making you $200 per sale. Now, let's work backwards through this math. $200 per day, you can get that from a 20% commission on a $1,000 product. And I think that commission is pretty reasonable, as the sales rep I just hired gets a 25% commission, although he does more than just take sales calls, which we'll get to in a moment. The part that gets wild is Iman's assertion that with very little experience, again, he deleted the video, so I can't say these are his precise words, but with very little experience, you can be taking 10 calls per day and closing 70% of them. That is insane. At $200 per sale, closing 7 sales per day, that's $1,400 a day. If you work 5 days a week, that's $28K per month and $336,000 per year. I got some of the business owners that I know to share what they thought a realistic close rate for beginners was. And let me just tell you, it wasn't 70%. And it's not just that the close rate is wild. 10 calls per day is also excessively optimistic. I recently had a call with my business coach, who's an agency owner doing 8 figures, which means $10 million plus a year. And he shared his sales pipeline numbers with me. He did 68 calls in his business last month. That's 2.3 per day. And their goal this month, 3 per day. That's an 8-figure agency. Iman's numbers of 10 per day for a complete beginner at a 70% close rate. That's ridiculous. He also mentions multiple times that as a closer, your calendar is filled for you and you don't have to do the appointment setting because that's someone else's job. And again, I'm not trying to bash Iman, and I realize it may come off that way. He's already deleted the video. I just want to give you a more realistic view of what it might look like to be a new sales rep before you jump in thinking that these numbers and these scenarios are how it's going to be for you right out the gate. It is true that appointment setting is a different role than being a closer. But just like the early stages of entrepreneurship, if you're a new sales rep, you'll wear a lot of different hats. I pay my sales rep a slightly higher commission of 25% because he also has the responsibility to be in DMs and emails and book his own sales calls. And maybe when our team is bigger and we have more volume, we'll hire an appointment setter and he'll only do sales calls. But for now, it's an all-in-one deal. Also, the goal for him starting out is 3 to 5 calls per week. Definitely not 10 per day. So let's say in a more realistic world, you get 25% commission on that same $1,000 product, and you get the extra 5% because you're setting your own appointments. That's a $250 commission per sale. If you get even 10 calls per week rather than the 10 per day, and you have a more realistic close rate of 40%, that's 4 sales a week, $2,000 a month, $24,000 a year. You'll likely improve your appointment setting and closing skills over time, so your earning potential probably lies somewhere between that $24K and Iman's $336K. I will let you decide which end of that spectrum you think is a more realistic starting point. The final 2 logical fallacies are another 1-2 punch. There's a false dichotomy when Iman talks about the job safety that comes with being a sales rep, and a non sequitur as well. When I first watched the video, I made a note to go back to 7 minutes and 45 seconds where he was talking about there being no risk for companies involved with hiring you as a sales rep, even if you're a beginner, because they only pay a commission, not a salary. And I wrote down a list of all the risks that I was considering when I hired my closer. I was thinking about the time that I had to spend training him about the offer, about my business, and answering all of his questions about what he was going to be selling. That was time I could have spent doing something else, and so there was an opportunity cost there, and therefore a risk reward that I had to weigh when making that decision. I also thought about the risk of having someone else close deals for me. That means that they're a representation of my brand and a touch point with my customer, so I had to consider that. And there was the opportunity cost of giving the calls to that rep versus another rep who might be better than them, or even taking that sales call myself. Because as the founder, you're typically going to have a higher close rate than somebody who's coming in as a sales rep. So there's opportunity costs all over the place. And even though a sales rep's payment is often commission based, there are still fixed costs associated with running a business in a sales pipeline. There's things like their custom email domain. There's Calendly booking software for them to actually book calls. There's software to track the success of the calls. There's a lot of fixed costs that go into this that you have to consider. And there's also the cost of the business owner's time to review the process and help to make their sales rep better. So in this case, a false dichotomy is when you present only 2 extreme options as if they're the only possibilities. And I think there's definitely some gray area between saying that businesses have absolutely no risk when hiring a sales rep and a reality that a commissioned employee is still risky, even though they're less risky than one who's on full salary. I didn't exactly know what this meant until I looked it up, but a non sequitur is a Latin term that translates to "it does not follow." And here is possibly the worst fallacy in all of the video. Iman tells a story about Venetian glassblowers and how highly paid and respected they were for their specialty and their craft. And if you search Venetian glass, you can quickly tell there's a level of craftsmanship that goes into these, and it's an incredibly difficult process. And he relates this to being a sales rep, which is absolutely a specialized skill that is very, very valuable. But what doesn't follow is that being a sales rep is also easy and simple, and that with just the right information and training, you'll be compensated as if you were a specialist who spent years honing their craft. Again, this isn't to crap on Iman, and I hope it doesn't come off that way. The reason I picked up a camera and started this channel in the first place is to document the journey of finding financial freedom and to show you that there are no shortcuts. There are a lot of people out there selling the dream, but at some point you've got to wake up and put in the work. And whatever path you're gonna go down, sales rep, entrepreneur, something else, doing it because you think it's easy and it's gonna be quick success and riches is, in my opinion, a path that only leads to disappointment. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you're new to this channel, YouTube thinks that this video right here is the perfect one for you to watch next.